Welcome to video 3 in my 3-video series on making effective presentations. This video will start to explain what kind of information actually goes onto your presentation screen. The first 2 videos looked at the physical appearance of your presentation and then at your use of transitions and animations. So now let's get into, the meat of it and take a look at how you actually enter information into the presentation. So we're going to leap with reckless abandon into the first rule, which is basically to be a woman or a man of few words. I'm talking about the words on the screen. You shouldn't put everything you say onto the screen. The idea is that just the main idea or a few words go onto the screen, and then you explain those ideas orally. So I'm going to use that same example that I used in the second video just because I already have it made up. This time I added some symbols because symbols or pictures or illustrations can really help if you're trying to use fewer words. Now you're going to watch while I give the presentation, and this time pay attention to how I only put a few important ideas or words on the screen, and then I explain what they mean on my own in the background orally. So I'm going to go into teacher voice now. Now we're going to look at why the explorers came to the Americas. After all, it was dangerous and difficult. Why would these people want to come here? There are 3 reasons, and conveniently, they all start with G. First, God. The men who came were from Europe and they were Christians, and they wanted to convert or change all of the native people already living in the Americas to Christianity. Second, gold. They wanted to get rich. Some were looking for actual gold in the New World, and others wanted to get rich in other ways. And then finally, glory. They wanted to be famous themselves, or they wanted to bring more respect or power to their country. And kind of usually it was a combination of both. So you notice how I didn't read off the screen. I gave a lot of explanation orally, while my audience only saw the title and then the 3 motivations. One exception to this rule is when you're using a direct quotation from somebody. If for some reason you need to include someone else's words, you can include them in their entirety on the screen. For example, if you take a look at this slide, it contains a quote from Christopher Columbus. In this case, because it's an important direct quotation, I can put the full thing up on the screen. I can also use a smaller font than I usually would, but I wouldn't just put it up here and read the quotation and be done with it. This is a quote from Christopher Columbus, blah, 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 blah. I would have to give a lot of explanation to my audience about what the quotation means, why it's important, maybe who Christopher Columbus was and why we should care, why all of this matters. Our next rule, I can't believe I'm saying it as an English teacher, but our next rule is that complete sentences are not necessary in your presentation. That is to say, you don't have to have complete sentences on the screen. The sentences that you speak should be complete, but what you put on the screen is just a short version or just a few words from what you want to say. So going back to our God, gold, glory example, say that 5 times fast. I know you're getting a little tired of it at this point, but it's the easiest one. So this is the way I had it presented. Very, very simple, just one word and a symbol for each motivation. It's more than enough to help the audience follow along, but there are no extra words. All the extra words I say in the background. However, if I put each of these into a complete sentence, it gets a little silly. There's absolutely no need to put these complete sentences up here because I'm not going to be reading them word for word anyway. And they kind of make it more difficult to find the important words, which are God, gold, and glory. And yes, I accidentally capitalized motivation in number 1, so you can take 1 point off my grade for improper capitalization. Honestly, it really is easier for the audience to follow along when it's just a few words, well-chosen words, and maybe some symbols. Our last rule is actually one that applies to every assignment you do in school, not just your presentations. Actually, it probably applies to everything you do in life. This is just a rule for life. Don't put anything into your presentation that you can't explain in your own words. Your audience will be able to tell if you're just copy-pasting information that you don't really understand. A presentation is a tool for teaching and explaining and showing what you know. If you don't fully understand something, you're not ready to do your presentation. Take a step back, try to figure out what's going on before you just paste something onto a page. You could ask a friend, you can ask a teacher, you can ask anybody, you could look up resources online or in the library, but don't put things into a presentation unless you understand them. It looks like we've reached the end, so let's summarize. The content of your presentation should follow our 3 basic rules, which are to use as few words as possible, to remember that complete sentences are optional, and then to only write about what you know. Thanks for watching and have a great day.